This story begins with a dog named Indy, resting peacefully beside his owner, Todd. Suddenly, Todd's cell phone starts ringing, waking Indy. It's a call from Vera, Todd's sister. As the phone rings, Todd starts to bleed, smearing the screen. Soon after, Vera arrives at the apartment and, seeing Todd in bad shape, calls an ambulance to take him to the hospital. It's clear that Todd and Indy share a very strong bond. Todd adopted Indy when he was just a puppy, and they've been inseparable ever since. They've supported each other through everything, even Todd's lung disease diagnosis. Sometime later, Vera and Indy go to pick Todd up from the hospital. After spending the afternoon together, Todd decides they need a change of scenery, so he plans to go to the cabin he inherited from his recently deceased grandfather. Todd wants to spend some time there to rest and get away from the city. As they prepare for the trip, Vera calls to warn Todd that the cabin might be dangerous and had something to do with their grandfather's death. While Todd is on the phone, Indy, waiting in the car, sees a strange shadow watching them from behind, but the figure vanishes the moment Todd gets back. Todd ignores his sister's warnings and confirms they'll be staying at the cabin for a few days. Indy is uneasy about going to this place, sensing a strange presence from the start, but he decides to go with Todd to keep him company. They arrive at the property at night. It's an isolated place in the middle of the woods. Todd uses a flashlight to find his way to the front door, which is chained shut. While Todd works on removing the chains, Indy hears noises coming from the basement door, located at the back of the house. Once inside, they see the house is severely neglected and needs many repairs. There are leaks and everything is covered in dust. Todd heads down to the basement to try to get the power on. From upstairs, Indy hears him grumbling and goes down to check on him. But Todd just mentions that something smells awful in the basement. The dog continues to feel that something is not right about this place. With the electricity running, the atmosphere relaxes a bit. Todd calls Vera to let her know they've settled in and that everything is fine. While they talk, Todd plays some old videotapes he found that belonged to his grandfather. The recordings show the grandfather playing in the yard with his dog, a golden retriever named Bandit. Todd tells Vera that his grandfather had many dogs over the years, but nearly all of them ran away. The only one who stayed with him until the end was Bandit, but he mysteriously disappeared right around the time the grandfather died. As Todd continues watching the videos, Indy hears a noise in another room. He gets up and goes to investigate. Peeking into one of the dark rooms, he sees the same shadow he had seen by the car, standing in a corner of the room. The dog gets scared, but just then, Todd arrives with a flashlight. He shines it into the room and shows Indy that there's nothing there. The next morning, Todd and Indy go for a walk in the woods. They come across a small family cemetery on the property. Todd mentions to Indy that all the men in his family are buried there, and that, for some reason, they all died young. Todd steps a few feet away to relieve himself, asking Indy to wait. As the dog waits, a man covered in branches and leaves emerges from the trees and approaches them. He turns out to be a neighbor named Richard, an old acquaintance of Todd's grandfather. Richard warns Todd to be careful, as he sets several fox traps throughout the woods. He asks Todd how long he plans on staying, and Todd replies that he intends to live there indefinitely. Richard is surprised to hear this, especially given how his grandfather died in that very house. He also tells him that he was the one who found the grandfather's body, and that his dog, Bandit, was never found after that. During their conversation, Indy senses a strange presence hidden inside a nearby hollow log, but can't see what it is. Later, Richard gives Todd an old power generator to use at the house. While Todd is outside setting it up, he gets another call from Vera. She asks if he's noticed Indy acting strangely, like searching for something that isn't there, or staring at nothing. Vera explains that she read online that dogs can detect illnesses in people before symptoms even appear, and she's worried Todd's condition is getting worse. Todd gets annoyed, thinking his sister's overreacting, and brushes her off. Meanwhile, Indy barks into the dark woods, startled by something Todd can't see. Todd scolds him, telling him there's nothing out there. That night, Todd and Indy sit down to watch TV. The show is a documentary about how dogs, since ancient times, have protected humans from unseen dangers and predators in the dark. Eventually, they both fall asleep on the couch. The next morning, Todd's health seems to be getting worse, as he's coughing more frequently. Indy continues to feel uneasy in the house. Later, Todd has to go out, leaving Indy alone in the cabin for the first time. The dog waits for his owner all day, looking out the window. As night falls, Indy is still alone and starts hearing strange noises coming from the air vents. He goes to investigate and suddenly comes face to face with another dog inside the house, a golden retriever identical to Bandit. The ghost dog, Bandit, leads Indy through the house to one of the upstairs rooms and then vanishes. Confused, Indy starts sniffing around the room. Under an old wardrobe, he finds a handkerchief that belonged to Bandit. As he smells it, Indy has a vision. He sees Todd's grandfather going down to the basement while Bandit waits upstairs. Suddenly, the dark shadow appears and attacks the dog, killing him. The vision is so intense that Indy bolts from the room, terrified. He hears approaching footsteps and scrambles to hide under Todd's bed. The figure entering the room turns out to be Todd, returning home. Todd's health has gotten noticeably worse. He looks more tired, and his attitude has changed. He starts ignoring Indy and telling him to leave him alone. Indy notices a blood-stained bandage on his owner's arm, but when he tries to get closer to sniff it, Todd shoves him away harshly. That night, Indy has another nightmare. He dreams he's walking alone in the woods and comes face to face with the dark creature. He wakes up with a start and realizes Todd isn't in bed. He goes downstairs and finds him in a strange state, repeatedly banging his head against the basement door. The sound is a series of loud, dull thuds. Terrified to see his owner hurting himself, Indy starts to whine. Hearing him, Todd snaps out of it and stops. He stares at the door for a moment. Later, Vera calls Todd again. She tells him she's worried and wants to come visit to make sure he's okay. Todd gets furious at the idea and argues with her on the phone. While Todd is yelling, Indy hears noises from the room where the grandfather used to record his tapes. The dog goes in and has another vision. He sees the grandfather, sick and coughing up blood, being attacked by the same dark shadow. Bandit, the grandfather's dog, can only watch, helpless. Shortly after, Todd finds Indy in the basement, completely covered in dirt and mud. He doesn't understand how he got there or why he's so filthy. He takes him upstairs to give him a bath. While cleaning him, Todd has a severe coughing fit and spits up a large amount of blood, staining Indy's fur. Terrified by his own condition, Todd realizes he needs to go to the hospital immediately. At the hospital, Todd begs the doctor to include him in an experimental treatment for his disease. However, she tells him it's too late, his condition is too advanced, and there's nothing they can do for him. Todd becomes desperate and aggressive. During the argument, Indy, who is with him, backs away in fear, because for a split second, he sees the dark shadow's face instead of his owner's. Back at the house, a defeated Todd starts cleaning up, throwing old things away. Later that night, Indy hears the sound of wind chimes moving outside, but Todd, lying in bed, tells him it's nothing and to go to sleep. He asks him not to sleep on the bed with him because he feels so sick. Indy lies down on the floor but can't settle down. He sees a shadow move across the living room and follows it. The shadow leads him to the basement stairs, where he sees Todd lying on the floor surrounded by blood. It looks like something is attacking him, but it all turns out to be another nightmare. Indy jolts awake to a real noise in the house. Todd hears it too, and terrified, grabs Indy and drags him under the bed with him. They hide together in the dark. In that moment, the malevolent entity takes over Todd's body, and he begins to squeeze Indy tightly. The dog yelps in pain. For a moment, Todd regains control and lets Indy go, trying to push him away to protect him. But just as he shoves him away, he has another coughing fit, and the bedroom door slams shut, separating them. Desperate, Indy looks for a way out of the house to get help. He finds the bathroom window open and leaps outside. He runs through the dark woods, searching for the neighbor, Richard. But in his haste, he steps on one of the fox traps. The mechanism snaps shut on his paw, trapping him and leaving him howling in pain. As he struggles to break free, the dark shadow appears before him. Just as it seems about to attack, someone arrives and knocks him unconscious. When Indy regains consciousness, he finds himself chained up in the yard. Todd is there, scolding him, reminding him that he had warned him to stay put and be quiet. Then Todd leaves him outside, tied to a small doghouse, and goes back inside. It's clear Todd doesn't have much time left. His health has completely deteriorated. Worried, Indy climbs onto the roof of the doghouse to keep an eye on his owner through the window. From there, he sees Todd inside, suffering another coughing fit and spitting up more blood. In the adjoining room, the dark shadow watches him in silence. The malevolent entity grows stronger and manifests in the yard, closing in on Indy. Seeing the danger, the dog runs to get inside the house and save Todd, but the chain stops him short. Using his wits, Indy gets a running start in the opposite direction, causing the doghouse he's tied to flip over. The chain's anchor breaks and the dog manages to free himself. Now free, he runs to the front door, but it's locked. His only option is the basement door, which is mysteriously open. Despite the fear the place gives him, he heads down the stairs. In the darkness, he stumbles over the body of Bandit, the grandfather's dog. Indy knows he can't turn back now and pushes forward to find his friend. Meanwhile, in the bedroom upstairs, Todd is on the bed, extremely weak and on the verge of death. Suddenly, he hears noises in the house and struggles to his feet. Looking down, he sees muddy paw prints leading down the hall toward his room. Terrified, he tries to shut the door, but doesn't have enough strength. Just then, Indy enters the room. Seeing him, Todd is relieved and hugs him, asking how he managed to get in, but the relief is short-lived. Todd looks toward the bed and sees someone lying there, next to a dog that looks exactly like Indy. With horror, he realizes he's looking at his own dead body on the bed. At that exact moment, Vera calls his phone. Before he can answer, the dark entity appears and drags him out of the room, using the same chain Todd had used to tie up Indy. The creature pulls him across the floor at high speed toward the basement. The door slams shut, separating them again. Without hesitation, Indy sprints to the back of the house to get through the basement door and follow him. He doesn't care about the fear he feels. He just wants to save his owner. A short while later, Indy emerges, dragging Todd out of the basement, trying to get him to safety. But the spirit catches up to them in the yard and attacks. Indy cries out desperately as he watches the entity begin to absorb Todd. When he's about to intervene, Todd looks at him, accepts his fate, and thanks him for always being such a good boy. He asks him to stay with him for just a few more minutes, right before being dragged for the last time into the darkness of the basement. Indy sits in front of the basement entrance all night. The next morning, Vera arrives at the house. Crying, she calls out to Indy, who is sitting motionless at the foot of the basement stairs. Just as Indy is about to go to her, he hears a whistle coming from inside the basement, and the movie ends.